Hey everyone, sales is one of those levers that when you pull it, you can really use it to drastically increase the amount of revenue you're bringing into your business. I mean, think about it. If you were landing just one more client, that would equal a lot more revenue in your business. Like changing nothing else about how many leads you get in the door, how much marketing you're doing. You're just landing one more person from your efforts. It results in a lot more money. So that's what we're going to talk about today. So if you want to learn how to elegantly, easily land high ticket clients, when we say high ticket, we're talking like maybe $3,000 or more per month. This is what we're going to talk about for you. Now, high ticket actually, well, before we move forward, let me know you're here. Put in a comment if you're watching the replay. Let me know where you're from. Tell me where you're calling from or where you're watching from, and give me some hearts and some likes. Always good to see that. Okay, so high ticket actually means different things to different people, and it depends on your industry, on your niche. Some of you working with really big businesses, $20,000, $30,000, $50,000 proposals or budgets, that's normal for you. For others, we're talking $1,000, $2,000, $3,000. That's like a stretch for you. So I'm going to put the threshold at $3,000. That's really, the minimum where we want to be. But this could go up really, really high depending on your industry and your target market. So, how are we going to split this up? And I've got my notes here. I think we're going to split this up. First of all, talking about the best way to close high ticket clients is around a strategic consultation, right? Or a sales call. Basically, you get on the phone, you talk with them, and that's your opportunity to close the sale. So we're going to split this up into kind of like, 3 different categories of how you can interact with these people and really make sure that you had the best chance at closing the sale, right? So things that you can do even before you get on the phone call, things that you do during the phone call, and things that you do after the phone call. Those are our 3 time periods, right? Before, during, after. And in that before period, sometimes we call that prospecting. So maybe we could even call it, your prospecting, your call, and your follow-up, right? But essentially the same idea, before, during, and after. Okay, so during your prospecting, before you even get on the phone call, there are some things that you really, really want to do. So first of all, in order to land high-ticket clients, it all really starts with your, what I call results-oriented marketing message. And this is, does your entire business revolve around helping a client get a certain result? That is imperative to this process, because what it does is, one, it orients you towards results and not processes, which means you can charge more money. People don't want to pay a ton of money. They want to pay hourly for a process. But when you talk about getting a result, that's something intriguing, something that they're going to pay a premium for. So your results-oriented marketing message is going to help your marketing be a lot more effective, because you're putting out a lot of content around getting a result and how you get it. But it's also going to make your packages a lot more valuable. So you're building packages around getting a certain result. So that's the first thing you want to do. It has nothing to do with your clients. This has everything to do with you. But you want to make sure that you are really basing your business around what I call a results-oriented marketing message. Basically, what's the big result that you get for people? Let's talk about it. Let's build our business around it. And that's just going to make you automatically more valuable. Bam, right away, 100%. Okay. So now let's say that you've got leads, you've got people coming in, right? What do we need to do in order to make sure that they are prepped to purchase your services? And the first thing we want to do is build authority. So even before you get on the phone call, as soon as the phone call is scheduled, or as soon as the person shows interest, we want to start providing value, right? And this can be through articles, talks, podcasts, whatever you have that is valuable, that is going to help them kind of take steps forward towards, one, working with you, but also towards getting that ultimate result. We want to start providing it to them, right? So this could even be a PDF that you create specifically for people who sign up for your consultation, specifically for prospects who are interested in what you're doing. And maybe you just, send it to them, and it helps them understand how you fit into their world, right? But we want to start providing value, and that's going to position you as an expert who knows what they're doing, who knows how to get that result, right? Like if you're talking about getting clients, How is it that you help them get clients? If you're talking about getting more leads through email, through blogging, if you're talking about getting PR for them, getting them in articles or in newspapers, how do you do that? Give them kind of a framework so that they know what they're getting into and that they start seeing you as the expert. Okay, so that's the number one thing that we want to do. The second thing we want to do is actually pre-qualify them, right? So you can do this through just looking at them, like maybe their social media profiles, or you can go to their website, or you can even have a conversation with them where you ask them certain questions. But you want to make sure that you have really clear standards for who you take into these consultations, because your time is valuable. So we don't want to just take anyone into this consultation. We want to make sure they're a good fit. We want to make sure that they are a potential client. So, what do they need in order to be a potential client? Have that criteria in your head and then just find out if they're the right person, right? Like, for instance, the other day I had a person reach out to me, said they wanted to get on a phone call with me. Turned out that they wanted to sell me something. Well, I'm not in a position to buy that. And so I declined the offer, right? Like, my time is valuable. I don't spend it just on anybody. So you need to do the same thing, right? Like, what is the pre-qualification that you're using, and do they fit in that? You can do that by asking questions through email, or you can do that, just by checking out their stuff. So an email I love to send the day of, or a couple days even before the actual phone call, is I'll reach out and just say, hey, what's the number one thing you feel like you want to accomplish here? And I love this question because it really exposes why they're reaching out. And I'll say, hey, just one sentence or two. I just want to think about it. What is it that you want to accomplish in this phone call? And lots of times, it'll come out. And what's great about that is it adds some personal touch to your engagement, but it also gives you an idea of who this person is. And you can kind of tailor your thoughts or your presentation or your whatever it is you're doing to their specific situation. So take that little tip and use it. And then the other thing that you want to do is just touch base several times, right? Like, if you've got a lot of time before the call, you want to keep reminding them that you exist and keep building your authority. So, let's say you've got a couple weeks before the actual meeting or phone call. Well, maybe we send an email saying, hey, confirming the date, and I've got this report for you I thought you'd find really valuable. And then we go a couple days and we say, hey, what's the number one thing you want to accomplish in this meeting? I want to make sure that as I'm preparing for it, that I've got you in mind. What is it that you're hoping to get out of this? And then they respond to you, right? And then maybe a couple days later you say, hey, was thinking about what you said. Here is another interview I did on a podcast, or here's like an article I wrote. Here's some other stuff for you. And I thought you'd like it. We're providing some more value. We're building up more of our authority. And then finally, like the day before, maybe the day of, touching base, just confirming we're still on for tomorrow. Looking forward to talking. So just by reaching out and showing interest, you're keeping them motivated. You're keeping yourself top of mind. You're keeping them warm, right? And maybe this is something you've heard before, but this really it's important because it helps keep you in their world, right? They reached out to you, or they signed up, or they expressed interest for a reason. But if you don't keep in contact with them, they're going to cool down, they're going to forget, and then you're going to have to try and reignite that flame once you get into the conversation. So before you even get there, make sure you're active and make sure you're talking to them. Okay, so those are, what did I give you? 4 tips? Nope, 3 tips for, no, it was 4. 4 tips for what to do during your prospecting stage. So we want to make sure that we have our packages and our messaging and our marketing around results. We want to make sure that we pre-qualify them. We want to make sure that we're building credibility, and then we want to be consistently reaching out. Those 4 things. Okay, so the next thing, during the call, during the actual conversation, right? Lots of times we get into these conversations and we want to talk all about us and what we do and why it's so cool and why they should hire us. But that is the exact wrong approach. You want to focus 100% on them, on their situation, and what it is they want to accomplish, right? Again, we're trying to connect what we do to the result that they want. So you want to get into these conversations and you want to ask a lot of questions, right? And actually it's building rapport, and it's taking the lead. It's taking charge. Now, it's not taking charge in the sense of being really dominating of the conversation. It's taking charge in the same way that sending your articles built authority, right? We are showing that we know what we're talking about, and we're setting the pace for the conversation. So you do this through really good, really smart questions, right? Questions like, okay, what is the goal that you're working towards? What's holding you back from getting that goal? What have you tried in the past that has or hasn't worked? Okay, let me show you a pathway that we can use to get you the result that you're looking for. See, really, really smart questions. And then that leads us to point number 2 here, is what I call the gap method, right? And the idea is that they want something, and there's a gap in between what they want and where they're at, right? There's a gap there. And if we can expose that gap and then show them the gap fill through our services, that's what's going to motivate them to want to purchase, right? We don't want to solve their problems. We don't want to, come in and just like fix everything. We want to come in and show them the pathway, right? So don't solve problems, identify problems and identify pathways, and then allow them to choose, right? And this is the third thing. Lots of times when we think closing, when we think sales, we think it's adversarial, right? Like we've got to get them to give something. We got to get them to give so that they can hire us, right? Like I got to win. But instead of taking that point of view, what you want to do is just identify problems, identify pathways, and then empower them to make a decision. And what this is going to do is, one, it's going to get you more committed, better clients. Because as an adult, they're going to make a decision, yes or no, right? And if they decide no, like maybe you don't want to work with them anyways. But most people, when you present a really good pathway to solve a problem that they have or to get a result that they want, they're going to decide, yes, I want that, and they're going to go for it. And because you empower them to make the decision, they're going to be more committed to it, and you're going to have better clients who whine less, who they want less scope creep, they're just going to be better 100%. Right? So identify problems and pathways. And also in this empowering, you can actually identify the objectives that you know they're going to have, right? Like we all know price is going to be an objective. We all know that there's going to be things about your services that people are going to object to. Like, I don't have the time, I don't have the manpower, I don't have the money. When you bring them up, that's being helpful. That's pointing it out, right? Like, this is expensive. To get this result is expensive. Do you have a plan for how you're going to deal with the expense of doing this? That's being helpful. When they bring it up, it's an obstacle, it's an objection, it's something to be overcome. I don't have the money to pay for this. And now suddenly it's on you to overcome that for them. Well, no, that's no fun. You can't overcome their objections. You can help them see the way through it, right? So instead of waiting for them to bring it up so that's an objection, you bring it up first, right? Say, okay, this is how you get what you want. And by the way, this could cost anywhere between X and Y. What's your budget? Do you have a plan for making sure that you have the budget to get these results, right? And then allow them to overcome their own problems. Empower them to be, their best ally. And you're going to have a lot better time closing those sales. So help them identify objections before they even identify it, right? And you've worked with enough people, you know what those objections are. You've had enough sales conversations, you know what those objections are. Don't wait for them. Don't cross your fingers and hope, please, this time, let them not mention money. Let them just have money pouring out of their pockets, because nobody does, right? So bring up the objections first. Hey, this takes a lot of time. Do you have the patience to get these results? What's your plan in the meantime while we work on getting these results? Hey, this takes a lot of manpower. We're going to need some help. What's your plan to bring on manpower, right? Empower them to make their own decisions. Don't try to overcome the obstacles for them. And then finally, during the follow-up, like for most people, you're going to be able to close a sale in one phone call. That's what I teach. That's what I push for. Close a sale in one phone call. 90%, if you do your prospecting right and you do these phone calls right, 90% of the people who are going to work with you are going to close in that phone call. So there's no need for follow-up because we just get started in the service. But for those that don't close for whatever reason, there are some things that you can do. Okay, so there's some things that you can do to make sure that you increase the conversion or make sure that you're staying top of mind, right? So two of these are actually done during the phone call. So they're tips for after the phone call, but we're going to do them during the phone call, and we only do them when we know that they're not going to close. So the first one is, do not get off the phone until you set up a follow-up appointment. All right. So they say, hey, I want to think about it. Hey, I want to run this past my board of directors. Hey, I need this or XYZ. I need a little bit of time. You say, fantastic. How about we connect again X day and you don't get off the phone until you have an appointment? The people that you're working with are busy. And now that they've got to make a decision, their human nature tendency is going to be delay making the decision. So if you have an open-ended, let's talk soon, it's never going to happen. They're going to avoid it. As much as they like you, they're going to avoid it. So we need to put a deadline, preferably just 1 or 2 days. And the way you can do this is just say, okay, you said that you've got to talk to your board of directors, or you said you got to do X, Y, Z. How long do you think that's going to take? And lots of people say, oh, I could probably do that tonight, or I could probably do that tomorrow, right? Or there's a meeting with the board this day. And you say, great. So you're going to talk to them tonight. How about we talk tomorrow? Or you're going to talk to them tomorrow. How about we talk the day after that, right? And actually set up the appointment. Land it right there in that conversation. Don't let them off the phone until you've got a commitment to a certain date. The next thing you want to do is you want to create, if you're going to use a proposal, which, I don't like proposals. I typically don't use them. But if you're going to use a proposal, or even if you're not going to use a proposal, co-create a summary with them. Or co-create your proposal with them before you let them off the phone. They might say something like, hey, do you have anything I can send to my wife or my husband? Or do you have anything I can send to the board or to whoever, whatever decision maker they need? Say, yeah, sure. Let me make sure it's tailored to you, and have them help you co-create your proposal. Say, okay, this is what I heard that you need. Is that right? And just type it out while they're talking. This is what I heard your budget is. Is that right? Yes. This is what you and I thought the right approach would be. Is that right? Yeah, let's write it out. And suddenly, in 5 minutes, you've created a proposal, and that same proposal would take you an hour, 2 hours on your own to make. And this proposal is so much more compelling because they actually created it with you, and it's the words and the things that they actually want, right? So co-create the proposal or the summary with them before you get off. And as soon as the call is over, tighten it up, pretty it up, but then send it over to them. That's just going to provide a lot of value, and it's going to give them that tool they need to convince whatever party they need to convince, right? After that, if you've got a couple days in between your phone calls, so again, hopefully it's like a day or two after, but let's say you've got a day in between or you've got a week in between, you want to stay top of mind again. So we're going to start with follow-up once more. How are you going to stay top of mind? So you want to provide real, relevant value to them, right? So I've seen people talk about, hey, make up an excuse and provide value. And here's the thing. If you try to provide value that's not relevant value, everyone can see through it, right? You need to have enough confidence in your service that following up for the sake of following up is valuable, right? You're not nagging them. You're not trying to fill your coffers. You're following up with them because they want a result, and working with you is how they get that result. That is useful. That is helpful. Own that. You can follow up for the sake of following up. It can even be an email. Hey, I was thinking about you. I really think this is great for you. I want to support you in any way I can. Do you have any follow-up questions? I'm just following up because I know this is a great fit for you. That is valuable. Okay? You don't need a flimsy excuse. Now, that being said, if you have a piece of content or someone else's content that really is valuable, then let's send it over to them, right? Hey, I have this article. You had a question about that. I thought this expounded on that a little bit more. Thought I would share it with you. Here you go, right? But it's got to really be relevant. It just can't be an excuse to reach out. Because if you're reaching out for the sake of following up, own the fact that you're following up, make it valuable, and just do it. Right? Don't try to use a flimsy excuse because people see through it. You don't need to do it. And then one final tip is if they say no, if the answer comes back and they're like, the timing just isn't right, I like to wait a week, 2 weeks, or even a couple months, and then I'll follow up with them once again. And my message will be something like, hey, it's been a couple months, and in my experience, people who make the decision not to work with me, they tend to regret it, a couple months later. Sometimes things change. Sometimes they realize that they really do need the help. And I just want to make sure that you're taken care of. So has anything changed? Should we revisit this? Or, another way of saying that is something like, hey, I've been thinking about you lately, and I think I thought of a way that we can, overcome these obstacles and work together. Do you want to jump on the phone really quickly? So you're re-engaging them. You've given them some time to, experience lack of buying remorse, right? Like, hey, I didn't purchase that, and I'm in the same place I was 2 months ago, 2 weeks ago, whatever it is. And you can actually re-engage them and lots of times close the sale. So don't give up on them just because they said no. Right? So, okay, so that's everything I want to talk about today in terms of sales and landing those high-end clients, right? So, first of all, this really revolves around a consultation and a results-oriented business, and then also your packages need to be results-oriented. That's how you raise your rates. And then the rest of the stuff is just the strategy behind how do you get someone to say yes. Like, because you could use these strategies with normal clients, not just high-ticket clients. But why wouldn't you use it with high-ticket clients? Why would you punish yourself and go after the bottom-of-the-barrel clients? Let's go after these high-ticket clients. And imagine you put these strategies in place. And I mentioned this at the beginning, but let's say, you're getting 5 leads a month, right? Every month. It'd be preferable you're getting 5, 10 leads every week, but let's say you're getting like 5 leads a month, and you're landing 1 or 2 of those people for $5,000. Well, what if you could land 3 or 4 of them? Now you've basically doubled your income each month because you just got a little bit better at sales. Nothing else changed. Your marketing didn't change. Your messaging didn't change. You just got a little bit better at sales, and suddenly you've doubled your business. That's why this lever is so big. It's so important you can pull it and actually get really, really good results, right? So just as a recap, during your prospecting, we want to make sure that we're results-oriented. We want to make sure we pre-qualify, we're building credibility, and we're touching base on a regular basis. During the call, we want to build rapport and take the lead. We want to use the gap method, and we want to empower them to make their own decisions. And we do that by asking smart questions. We do that by bringing up objections before their objections. And then finally, afterwards, we want to make sure we've got another call scheduled. We want to make sure that we co-create a proposal if we're using a proposal. We want to make sure that we follow up with relevant value. And then if they end up saying no, we want to follow up again a couple months or a couple weeks later. Do those things. You're going to see a big increase in your sales. I promise, I guarantee it. It's going to work, right? Okay, so I would love to hear what is your biggest takeaway. Leave a comment here. Shoot me some likes. Shoot me some hearts. Happy to help and answer your questions. So if you leave a comment, I will be there talking to you. Otherwise, take some fast focus, imperfect action, and we'll see you later.